Welcome to the next episode of Design and Influence. Here's myself, Alex, my co-host, Boris Rappaport, and we have a new exciting guest. But before I introduce Kiran more fully, I want to talk about our topic real quick. So what we're doing today is taking a deeper look at some of the questions, or some of the concerns, some of the thoughts, some of the discussions we see here and participate in the architecture community. And those discussions are around implementing BIM for smaller architecture firms, or growing architecture firms. Like, does it make sense? Why it makes sense? What kind of time savings? What kind of implementation process? What's onboarding looking like? And what the outcome of converting to BIM may look like. And so we brought an expert, in fact, a digital manager from Bar Architects here in San Francisco. He's an associate and I should say digital design manager, Kiran Nayak. Kiran, welcome to the show. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Alex. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So let's open this up with just to kind of compress the question. Mm-hmm. Should smaller firms consider switching to BIM? But before we even go there, maybe you can paint the picture of what BIM provides as opposed to like the 2D design and some of the things that AutoCAD most people are doing today.
Sure. That's a great question. In short, BIM stands for Building Information Modeling. And it's important to de-jargonize this, because when you talk about BIM, sometimes it may seem like it's a very complicated thing, but it really isn't. It's about having a single source of truth, no matter which software you use. It could be Revit, it could be ArchiCAD. It could be any of the BIM tools out there, but it's about having that one central repository modeling tool, which serves as your database, right? So for example, if you're a firm that's using Revit, right? If you're an architecture firm, you may be working with multiple consultants, multiple stakeholders. All of these people are building their own models, but they're all feeding into that central source of truth. So your model becomes the database for all your consultants, for even your clients. And it would be then the source of data that comes out. So from the central model, you would have a strand that maybe leads towards visualization. You'd be able to export data towards generating an energy model for sustainability. You'd be able to export all the data to generate your door schedules, send data to manufacturers. So you're not spreading yourself too thin, drawing 2D details of everything. When you draw a wall, you have an elevation of that wall. When you draw a door, you have the drawings that correspond to that as well.
And as opposed to 2D design, where right, each of these are individual projects. Am I correct?
Yes. So when you're working in a tool like CAD, right, you're basically simulating how people used to draw on paper, right? You're not taking that extra step of making it smarter. You are drawing in the environment of a computer. You're doing it digitally, but you're still drawing lines, and you're basically drawing lines on screen. The computer doesn't know if two parallel lines form a wall or if they form a door. That's for you to determine. But when you migrate to a smarter tool like Revit or ArchiCAD, or I don't endorse any particular one, but when you do move to a 3D tool like Revit, that recognizes a wall, it recognizes a door, it knows what a floor is, it knows what a roof is, then your model is now inherent with all the data that goes with that. You've moved away from drawing on paper and then overlaying stuff with trace.
Gotcha.
So there's a big difference there.
Gotcha. So I think conceptually this makes sense. You have a centralized database, and from there you can do visualizations, you can do data in schedules, you can output to Excel, and all the changes happen in central location. You got people, collaboration, you got communication. Like that whole thing it sounds fantastic and sounds like a huge step forward. But what about smaller firms? I mean, Bar is pretty big, right? I mean, fairly big. They can afford you, who just essentially you just help them with BIM and getting that software to be the most effective in the system in the company. What about smaller firms? How do you see people rolling this out?
So the first thing to note is that the capital cost of any BIM tool will seem expensive to any small firm. I've managed a small firm in the past, and I know what these costs look like. And when a principal looks at these costs, if you weigh AutoCAD versus Revit, the costs are significant, right? So it really depends on where you want to spend your time, because time is really where, is your time worth more than the cost of the software?
In our conversation before this, you also mentioned like it's how we use the time. But I think even before we take a step back, like this is who works at the smaller firms and how that may be an advantage. I think you've mentioned that briefly in our pre-show conversation.
Yes. One of the really interesting things about smaller firms is that when you hire, the people who typically want to join a smaller firm, and the people that a smaller firm might be able to afford, are junior people. They may be people who are fresh out of college or have 1 to 4 years of experience. And in my experience, when I've dealt with people at that level, it's really surprising, but they come in with incredible knowledge and experience in advanced modeling tools like Rhino. They may even have experience in Grasshopper, and most of them have experience with rendering tools like Enscape, Lumion. So they're coming in with a lot of knowledge that even older people in the firm may not have. So it's important for smaller firms to leverage the skills of these younger people who come in. If you take someone who has a lot of expertise in Grasshopper and Rhino, and then make them do AutoCAD, then you're probably not using them to their fullest capacity.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And what would be your estimate for getting some of these junior folks who are, let's face it, they're digitally native, right? Digital natives, right? That's what you call them, millennials, digital natives. Generation Z now is graduating, I think. How long does it take them to get proficient in, say, Revit?
One of the great things I've noticed about younger staff is that they have a lot of elasticity when it comes to software. If you've understood something as complex as Rhino, you can typically pick up something like Revit in a couple of hours. Learning the fundamentals of Revit doesn't take that long. And there are a lot of courses out there to train you. It could take anything from 10 to 15 hours to do a fundamentals course. And that will set you up with the basics and everything you need to get started. Now, every firm has its own standards. Every firm has its own Revit modeling practices. And that does take a little longer to inculcate. But that is the best way to learn. Through a project, by interacting with your team members, you learn a lot from working with people. So, rely on younger staff's ability to pick up software fast and give them the information they need to follow your standards. And, smaller firms should be good to go with just that.
Gotcha. Something we didn't cover, but I want to ask you about is, what do you think a firm that has aspirations to shift into the BIM realm because they want to grow, they want to do more interesting work, they want to spend their time in more interesting ways, which we'll discuss in a moment. What would the implementation timeline look like? Let's say, okay, today, September 1st, we're going to try a project with BIM. How long does it take typically to sort of become proficient and my whole firm now is on BIM?
I like to joke that BIM in any office is a Sisyphean task. You're rolling a rock up a hill indefinitely.
Well,
just like remodeling at my house.
Right. I'll be absolutely honest with you. For a firm to migrate fully into BIM, it can take 2 to 3 years to fully implement BIM at your firm, right? But to start migrating into projects, for junior staff to get started, you can get into Revit in a couple of days, right? Mm-hmm. You have to migrate slowly and build your standards, translate those into Revit, and that takes time. You have to hire experts. You have to hire people who know what they're doing. You have to have a team who collaborates within the office, who can discuss from the top down what your standards should look like and have a broad sense of what your goals are. If you just say, I want to migrate to Revit, it's going to take you a very long time. If you establish the goals first, then and also design a roadmap along the way. For example, what should you have? What do you want to achieve in the first 6 months? What do you want to achieve in a year? And then what do you want to achieve further down the road? Then you're in much safer hands. That planning has to happen in order for the implementation to be successful.
Yeah, that's really good insight. And so here's kind of, let's talk about the benefits, right? So why would a sane company with say 10, 15 successful company with 10, 15 architects, some support staff, embark on this rock, pushing uphill situation? Give us a couple of the reasons, man. I mean, in other words, in 5 years, would I be able to win more projects? Like, is the 2D going away completely? Is the database and BIM realm is the wave of the future, and everything else will sort of go, become obsolete? Is that what you're seeing?
All firms want to make money. All firms want to save as much money as possible in the process. But at the same time, all firms, and especially all people who are working on projects, want to be as creative as they can be, right? If you're working in an older tool like AutoCAD, you're spending a lot of time doing busy work. You're spending a lot of time drawing walls. You're spending a lot of time making changes. And if someone makes one change, you need to track that change through all your drawings one by one. There isn't a way to go through to make that change globally. So just that one simple example, right? If you're in Revit and you change a wall, it changes it across the model. It changes it across all your views and across all your schedules. So imagine the time saving in just that one aspect. The same would apply to areas. The same would apply to any building element within your model. The time saving itself, it frees up so much room for creativity and gives teams more flexibility to wrap up the busy work and spend more time focusing on what really matters in a project.
Gotcha. So you and I spoke, before the show, and I kind of pinned you down a little bit on what your estimated time savings would be. And you want to sort of give that, because I think this is the bottom line. Like, if you didn't listen to the whole episode, you fast forward to this point. I think this is so revealing to me. Your assessment of what the time savings are across the firm. And can you please mention what those are?
Yeah. And I'm going to qualify this firsthand by saying that any tool you use is only as good as the people who use it, right? So it depends on your training. It depends on how well you communicate in the office, because there is no substitute for good communication. But if you use your tools the right way and you use BIM smartly, my estimate would be that it would save 60% of the time over traditional tools like AutoCAD and SketchUp.
We're talking 60% of the grunt, the labor, the busy work, right? And it's going to be a choice of the firm how to reposition that time, investing in their own unique ability, their own flair, their own creativity, their own what you want to be known for. That's what I call it. Like, I don't really know, have a good word for it. Like, what do you want to be known for as a firm? Like, how do you work on that? Well, you cut the busy work. You use the same, payroll hours, same cost concepts to build out what you want to be known for. I think that's a transformational concept, and the way you thinking about the conversion. But to realize, so Kiran, go back to this, qualify with this one answer you gave me, to realize these kinds of savings. Let's pretend it's sort of almost like the average scenario in terms of we started at September 1st. How many months do I need to be working within the BIM environment in order to realize this sort of time savings on busy work?
Well, first off, like I said, training is really important. Junior staff will come in with significant knowledge of advanced modeling tools. So if you're training them, you could get them onboarded and in projects within 15 days of them joining the firm. Right? And that might seem like a long time to some firms, but the time saving from using traditional tools to Revit or a BIM software is significant. So you have to look at it from that standpoint. Another really important aspect you need to consider is that you need to set the goals and the templates in advance, right? These can be works in progress. They can continue to evolve as the BIM maturity of the firm evolves, but it's extremely, extremely important to have some sort of templating in place, right? When you move from AutoCAD to Revit, you also need to migrate your title blocks. You need to migrate the way you like your details and views and plans to look. There's a lot of work with line weights, and it's really important to have a few experts in your firm who can establish these standards to start off with. Having those two things, the training and a certain amount of expertise within the firm, or a consultant to help you out in that aspect will set you up for success.
Time-wise, please. I want to pin you down on the time. Like how many months/years to realize these kinds of savings? I'm sure time savings will slowly grow, but to get to that 60% potential, how long?
Across all your projects, you can see a return on investment in the cost of the software within a year.
Within a year. That's probably break even, right?
Break even, because BIM is not just about Revit. You're not just paying for Revit, you're paying for other collaboration tools, maybe visualization tools, some plugins that make your productivity higher. So if you build a software ecosystem in your office where all these tools sort of work together and you can design a workflow around them, then you can easily break even within a year.
And then from there, it's all gain.
From there, it's all gain, and it's always going to be a work in progress, but you're always going to just see improvements.
That's fantastic, Kiran. This was a really, really interesting discussion. And I think I'm going to sum this up. If your smaller firm is looking to expand their unique ability, enjoy and do better work, become known for something outside of just your basic busy work, I think you should consider switching to BIM. And Kiran here will provide his contact information in the write-up for this video, is also doing some BIM consulting on the side, and he can help you and point you in the right direction. Now, as far as Arc IT, we don't have a dog in the fight, right? We help architecture, engineering, design firms run their IT, all of their servers, all of their computers, and most importantly, people that need to focus on doing their best work and not worry about IT. That's what we do. Now, whether you're AutoCAD or Revit or whatever, no dog in this fight, will support you. But of course, we want to provide you with the education and help you and lead you into the new realm of BIM if you choose to do so. If you have any questions, you can always comment on the video or throw us a line at getarcit.com. Kiran, it was a pleasure. Boris, thank you. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Bye.